Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at map function in Python. So let's take an example. So I'm going to initialize a list called list, and I'm going to pass 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 values in it. So let's say we want to square all these values. So we want the output to look something like this. So 1 to the power 2 is 1, 2 to the power 2 is 4, 3 to the power 2 is 9, 4 to the power 2 is 16, and 5 to the power 2 is 25. Okay, so we want the output to look something like this. So what I'll do is I'll create a function and I will call this as square, and I'll pass n, and we'll just simply return n to the power 2. Okay, in order for us to square these values, what normally we would do is we would do for n in list, and we would call this square function and we would pass n, and output we can create something like this out, and we'll create a list, and we would do out dot append the square of n, and then we can print out. Okay, so if I execute this, we'll get the output. But in the map function, it makes it very easier, so we don't have to do all this stuff. We can remove this stuff. What we can do is we can just take map function, instead of which we can pass the function name. So we want to square, and we can pass the second argument it accepts is the iterable. So here the iterable is list, so we can pass list. And if I print this, we get a value which just gives you the object's location. In order for us to see the output properly, what we can do is we can convert this into a list. So I'll just do list, and I'll execute this. We'll get the output as 1, 4, 9, 16, 25. Okay, so that was about map function in Python. Here is how you can use filter function in Python. So before that, why do we need a filter function in the first place? So filter function, the name itself suggests that you can filter out certain values. So let's take an example here. I'm going to create a function called even numbers, and I'll pass n, and if n mod 2, if that is equal to 0, then we will just return true, else we will return false. Okay, and I will create a list, and it is going to have these values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I only want the even numbers from this list. Okay, so what I can do is I can use filter function, and I will just pass this function name here. I don't need to call this because filter function will call the even number function, and the second parameter it accepts is the collection. So here the collection is list, and if I print this, and run this, I get an object at some random location. Okay, so in order for us to see the output properly, what we can do is we can convert this object into a list and print this. We get 2468, which is correct. So what filter function does is it checks whether it only keeps the values for which the return value is true. So here for 1, 1 mod 2 is not equal to 0. So that's why it will be returned as false, and that value will be filtered out. And for 2, uh, 2 mod 2 is 0, and the return value is true, and that value will be kept. Okay, likewise, it's going to continue, and that's how you use filter function to filter out certain values in Python. Here is how to use reduce function in Python. So let's take an example here. So let's say we want to calculate the sum from 1 to 10. So what I'll do is I'll create a function, and I'll call it as calculate sum, and I'll pass list as an argument, and I will create a variable called total, and I will initialize it with 0. and I'll take a for loop for iteration for n in list, and we will add this num to it, and finally we can return total. Okay, and now what I'll do is I'll create a list and I'll add these values in it from 1 to 10. Okay, I'll take a print statement here and I'll call this function here, and if I execute this, we get the output as 55, which is correct. So this reduce function in Python makes it very simple. We don't have to do all this stuff. What we can do is we can just simply pass two arguments here, so n1, n2, and we can just return n1 plus n2, and we also have to import the reduce function from func tools. So from func tools import reduce, and what I'll do is I'll call the reduce function here. The first parameter it takes is the function name, so I'll just put it here as a first argument, and the second argument it takes the iterable, so list is an iterable, so I'll pass list there, and I will print this, and if I execute this, we get the same output, 55. We don't have to manually do the iteration, so reduce function takes care of it. So you can also do multiplication, division, etc. So what we can do is we can just simply call this function as calculate multiplication, and instead of addition you can do is you can do n1 multiplied by n2, and we can take the same list and we can call this as calculate mul, and if I run this, we get the output as this. Okay, so that's how you use reduce function in Python. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.